In the winter of 1884, Esperanza Ruiz, 25 years old, discovered that her very existence felt like a weight that dragged at the heart of her family. The biting chill of the Colorado Territory wrapped around her like a serpent, but it was not the cold that froze her spirit. It was the isolation that came from a childhood injury that left her with a pronounced limp. Snowflakes swirled in the air, blending with the shadows cast by towering mountains that seemed to mock her every effort as they loomed over her homestead. The world around her felt immense, while she felt small and insignificant, a burden she couldn't seem to cast away. "Make yourself useful, Esperanza," her father Ramon roared one fateful afternoon as they surveyed the straggling livestock. He unveiled his hand, the rough skin now a canvas of disappointment. "I can't keep dragging you along like some pathetic sack of grain. You draw only scorn on our family." The harshness of his words stung more than the wind whistling past her, leaving a metallic taste of shame lingering on her tongue. As she bent to gather the hay, her father turned sharply, muttering under his breath about the deal he had struck with Diego Mendoza, a mountain man renowned in town for his fierce independence and pride. It felt like a knife, twisting deep in her gut. She would soon be gone from her family, shipped off to a man who had not asked for her, not wanted her. Across the yard, Diego appeared, a silent figure clad in weathered leather, his face obscured by the slant of his hat. The shadows clung to him like a shroud. He emanated an unapproachable quality that made the air grow dense. She had heard whispers of his debts and the proud manner in which he bore them. He moved with a deliberate grace that spoke of both strength and isolation. The day he arrived at the homestead, he may as well have been a statue chiseled from granite, unyielding and cold. Esperanza's heart thudded in her chest at the thought of spending her life with him. Could this man, sitting atop the burden of a life he never chose, also carry her slumping spirit? That very winter day, they stood at opposite ends of a tethering line, each anchored by their own burdens. The air crackled with unasked questions, whispers of uncertain futures. Ramon's decision echoed inside her. The contract written in invisible ink remained unbroken, leaving her at the mercy of two men with shattered dreams. "You are not an obligation," Diego had told her at their first meeting, but she wondered if he believed it. "So this is what you call home?" His deep voice rumbled, the words jarring her from her thoughts. She moved slowly, painfully aware of him watching her limp towards the cabin. Rigid as the battered wood that surrounded them, her carefully cultivated walls of self-preservation stifled the yearning hope that grew like wildflowers beneath the unyielding frost. In the weeks that followed, as winter turned the land into a canvas of white, Diego remained a sullen presence looming over her day-to-day acts of survival. His resentment felt like the icy wind that cut through her. She could sense his reluctant acceptance of her, a flower blooming in the harshest landscape, yet the unfamiliar feelings brewed in her chest, sympathy for her situation and an unsettling admiration for her steadfastness. Like the trees hewn to serve his roof, he dismissed her. "The roof needs mending," he would say, and rather than appraising her skills, he would look through her as though she were nothing more than an inconvenience. Yet on those biting nights when the howling winds rattled the rafters, she gathered resolve from the warmth of the fire they shared in silence. It was through the smoke that curled toward the stars that she busied herself, nurturing his home, the way the sun softened the frost. Every loaf of bread she molded, every pot of stew she managed to coax into being brought more than sustenance. It infused the cold cabin with touching warmth. It was far more than the successful management of household needs. It was a fight against her own demons. "Winter is never kind," Diego observed one evening as they faced a snowfall that seemed endless. Dimmed by the heaviness of the day, his voice held neither disdain nor anger, and for the first time something flickered in his gaze. Esperanza glanced up, her heart quickening. "It takes its toll on everything," she agreed softly, testing the air with her words. "But perhaps we could foster growth in adversity." At his side, she witnessed his tentative release from the shadows. Intrigued by her words, he revealed layers behind the mountain man facade. Each time she caught him watching her, she tried to fill the silence with laughter or thoughts. Slowly, they began to follow a rhythm, dictated by the patter of snow and the icy chill that sank into their very bones. But balance is fragile, and winter can breed resentment as easily as respect. Outside the cabin, the whispers had begun, words that floated into their sanctuary with the flurries of snow, swirling into their lives, reminding them of the scars that bound them. "What can he see in a woman like her?" echoed the townsfolk, their snickers ruthlessly sharp against the rural quiet. "We'll show them," Diego had said one night, his frustration a tempest of emotions. "They don't understand the burdens we carry." In such moments, Esperanza dared to believe that responsibility joined them, crafting faint threads of connection that she felt, deep within her heart. And yet, she feared. Every glance his way seemed to crumple her spirit. Years of unkindness had chiseled sharp contours on her heart, festering wounds marked by laughter, by disdain. She did not believe she could ever equal him. "Beauty is transient, and I am not deemed worthy of admiration," she thought, as she turned her gaze to the flickering flames of the hearth, keeping the memories of rejection tucked tightly into her chest. When those shared moments of gentle laughter or brief touches began to punctuate the wilderness, they carved paths in their shared silence, discordant yet harmonious, like notes weaving into an unexpected melody. As the weeks unfurled into months, winter began to relent. Esperanza no longer flinched every time Diego glanced her way. He found purpose in her, an enigmatic beauty that glimmered just beneath the surface of what he had initially perceived. In their mutated familiarity lay potential, a partnership emerging amidst sowing and reaping, laughter and futures previously unexplored. The final breath of winter slipped away with the winds, revealing the first whispers of spring. It brought with it courage, the frail roots of healing entangled in the soil, blooming alongside the wildflowers, carrying whispers of second chances and fledgling love. The rugged wilderness began to reflect their transformation, leaving the mountain man and his incongruous bride with the power to reshape the very destinies they once believed were beyond their grasp. At that moment, both explorers of their hearts, Diego and Esperanza, stood illuminated, exchanging glances that bore the weight of hope, stolen yet forever significant. Every glance became a promise, a daring leap toward a bond neither had known they could forge. The warmth of the sun on their backs whispered possibilities they had not dared to dream, and within the snowy soliloquy of their lives, a flicker of change began to ignite, awaiting only time to cast everything in full bloom. "Hello, my dear friend. This is Jasper Ashwood, your narrator of Mountain Tales. Before we start, make sure you subscribe and drop a comment below telling me where you're tuning in from. A big hug to you all, and I hope you enjoy the story." Those words hung in the air, echoing against the backdrop of all they had faced. Threats and burdens, whispers and laughter. Each held a kernel of truth in the womb of uncertainty, the promise of a tomorrow they would fight for together. As spring's timid tendrils unfurled, the harsh winter landscape turned into a tapestry of emerging life. The ground spoke a new language, filling the air with the sweet scent of awakening blooms. Esperanza felt a surge of optimism as she deftly observed Diego in the early morning light, the sun casting long shadows that fought against the chill of dawn. Today, he was repairing the roof, a task that left him bent over, hammering with a force that both intimidated and intrigued her. Day by day, moments piled upon each other like the bricks of their homestead, building a structure of understanding that neither had anticipated. But today carried an electric weight. Their fragile alliance was about to be tested, and unbeknownst to them, it would be painted across the vast canvas of their lives in vivid colors, the palette of connections grounding them. "Hey, be careful!" Esperanza called from below, shading her eyes against the bright sun. His foot slipped, and her heart raced alongside the near miss. "You don't want to tumble down like those busted shingles." Diego straightened, jade eyes meeting hers, dancing amidst a flicker of surprise before melting into something softer. "I'll be fine," he smirked, a gesture unfamiliar yet warming. It would be the roof's fault, not mine. Their laughter rang across the expanse, rare and crystalline, punctuating the rhythm of their lives as laymen beneath the eternal yoke of solitude. In those fleeting seconds, he seemed limitless and she felt capable, an exhilarating contains of harmonizing essence that allowed her to partake in experiences once deemed forbidden. By the time the sun climbed high into the morning sky, both contended with the resilience of their surroundings. Esperanza moved deftly, carrying stacks of shingles closer to Diego. She reveled in the way her body moved, no longer tethered by the shame of her limp. Each cautious step was a testament, a flag-waving triumph against the past. "You've got a knack for this," Diego admitted, gesturing towards the roof as he thrust a hammer into the shingles. She caught the glimmer in his eye, an invasion of shared respect swelling under the surface. "Maybe you're just not as bad a teacher as I'd thought," she teased back, the banter igniting a warmth that seeped into her bones. They fell into a rhythm, a dance that led them toward unexpected camaraderie. Secrets and truths spilled into their innocent exchanges, creating a bond upon which trust could flourish. Evening wrapped around them with easy tranquility, and for the first time she watched Diego without the veil of apprehension that had once clouded her perception. After a long afternoon of hard work spent in each other's company, they settled by the fire. The stars blanketed the sky, illuminating the dust swirling in the air around them. "Do you miss it? The life you had before?" she asked, curiosity getting the better of her. It was a dangerous question, yet a necessary one. She needed to bridge this gulf of past pain, to understand the man who watched over her like a winter storm. "Every day," he sighed, his breath visible, a fog that dissipated into the cold night air. But back then, it was a different kind of lonely. Now, he paused. The fire seemed to flicker in response to his thoughts. "Now I am merely burdened by regret." Those words hung there, heavy with the toll they had collected. "Regret is a heavy pack," she mused, her fingers gracefully dancing along the edges of the cool grass. "I should know. I've carried mine for a long time." "What burden do you carry?" he wondered, intrigued. Their eyes met as curiosity wedged between them like a shared silence, a narrative yet to unfold. "My family thinks I am less than worthy." "My injury has drawn only ridicule," she whispered, nipples of vulnerability forming in the cool air. "It's easier to dismiss me rather than acknowledge my existence." It made me believe what they said was true. A burden, a weight. Diego's expression shifted, shadows settling like heavy clouds upon his brow. "You are not a burden, Esperanza. You are not what they called you." She felt warmth bloom in the chill of the night, his words soothing her spirit like a balm. There, beneath the weight of honesty, she shed the echo of doubt she had worn like armor. With the passing days, the cabin transformed in its energy, an invisible tapestry woven from shared heartbeats. Their home became a space alive with laughter, where hopeful intentions bubbled like crisp water over stones. One balmy afternoon, Diego returned bearing herbs, a collection of unassuming wild plants freshly gathered. "I thought you would like these," he said, presenting the bunch with the unexpected gentleness of his rugged hands. "What do you truly know of herbs, mountain man?" she challenged, her spirit playful. "They are more than mere weeds, you know." "I know they can heal and enhance," he replied, voice a low rumble like distant thunder. "That's what I need to know." Esperanza took the offering, studying the simple blades and blossoms. "These hold secrets, some that could give strength to the weakest." In that moment a spark flared, drawing their eyes together with the intensity of an unspoken promise each harbored. "We could help others, tending the land, mending the hearts." "I suppose we could," he remarked, uncertainty mingling with burgeoning hope. Days passed into weeks, the delicate interplay of vibrant life dancing between them as they thrived in each other's presence. Their laughter lightened the pressure of traditional complications, weaving a new narrative. Connectivity ushered in moments meant to divine their souls. But as spring continued to blossom, the season also brought whispers. Word traveled through the small settlement, gossip bubbling with feverish pitch. The townsfolk hurled remarks with every exchange. "Look at them, such a mismatched pair," echoed the judges. "That mountain man is wasting his life away with that broken bird." The poison of judgment seeped into their world, materializing painful memories within Diego's resolute heart. As he plucked wood to stoke the embers of the fire, his anger festered. "Don't they see you are a force?" "I'm strong enough to withstand their fire," she replied, a sense of defiance weaving through her voice. "But what can we do against gossips? I can no longer allow fear to paralyze my spirit." He paused in contemplation, fingers brushing against loaded thoughts. "I will protect you, but respect must be earned in their eyes, not merely through my actions." The fire crackled like thoughts kissed alive in the air. "Then let them see," she encouraged with growing fervor. "Each moment we share builds that confidence. We owe them nothing but the truth of our spirits." For the next few weeks they worked as partners, paralleling the growing strength of their bond against the backdrop of disapproving glances. With every shared task and every meal cooked in unison, hope and resilience forged an alliance of fortitude that no mere words could ever extinguish. It was soon after, during one of those fortifying mornings, when Beatriz rode back into the settlement, the spectre from Diego's past returning as an unwelcomed storm. The woman held an otherworldly beauty, a breath of sun. Her laughter rang like soft chimes that unsettled the fragile peace they had built. "Diego, I thought you'd forgotten me," she cooed, radiant and coy, as she confronted the rising sun. Esperanza, eyes like embers upon seeing the woman emerge from the shadows, felt that familiar trepidation coiled tightly around her heart. This was the face of his past, a past that roared like a tempest, threatening to unravel everything they had forged together. "Beatrice," Diego breathed, caught unprepared, as if facing an avalanche tumbling towards him. The joy in the air shifted to a piercing cacophony, clouds darkening in anticipation of a coming storm. "What are you doing here?" His voice steadied, but the tension crackled in the air. "I've come for you, Diego. You know we were meant to be," she implored, fingers brushing against his arm, an unbidden touch. For a moment, despair skated perilously close to hope, and Esperanza felt the weight of that impending betrayal settling inside her. She had felt the bond forged anew, blooming as spring stretched toward endless horizons. Yet here lay the dark remnants of his past, returning to confront them, ready to siphon away everything they had nurtured. Diego stepped back, anger simmering just under the surface. "I am no longer the man you knew, Beatrice." With determination surging, Esperanza approached Diego's side. "You cannot own someone's freedom. It is not yours to reclaim," she declared, the fierceness of her voice rising into the air, entwining itself with courage. "Who is this?" Beatrice scoffed, twisting her lips into a mocking smile designed to cut. "A broken little bird, with no home to call her own?" Esperanza's heart thundered, but she found strength in the ground beneath her, refusing to yield, despite the temptation to crumble. "I am no longer a burden, nor am I broken. I have grown, I have flourished." Her words hung heavy, echoing against the walls of their uncertainties. Sacrifice had blossomed out of pain, and as she stood before her silent foe, something shifted. Flashes of light radiated from within her, illuminating the depths of the insecurities that once served to choke her. Diego grasped her arm, steadying her amidst the chaos, and for a moment she felt indomitable, as if carrying the weight of their dreams combined. "Leave us, Beatrice. I choose my path now," he declared, the fierce ring of authority resonating through the unsettled air. Beatrice huffed in disbelief, her lips pressing into a thin line. "You will regret this," she threatened, but he remained steadfast, eyes anchored to Esperanza, resolute in their union. As the spectre of the past dissipated into the faint light of the day, an unbreakable bond formed between Esperanza and Diego, woven against the threats that sought to tangle them apart. They stood together, hearts stronger, ready to embrace the challenges yet to come as one. With the arrival of spring promising new beginnings, they cast aside stray fears. The world, once so heavy, felt lighter as they stepped forward, out of the shadows and toward a brighter future, driven by the unyielding love that had begun to take root within their hearts. And together, they dared to shape their own narratives, unbound by the shackles of their pasts, no longer two separate beings, but one woven spirit, crafted beautifully amidst the snow-capped Colorado mountains. As spring unfurled its vibrant blossoms across the Colorado Territory, the air hummed with the promise of rebirth. Esperanza and Diego had settled into a delicate equilibrium, their bond tested and tempered like the steel of a finely forged blade. Every day crafted a new layer to their relationship, turning ordinary moments into sacred exchanges of spirit, trust, and understanding. Morning sunlight filtered through the cabin's small window, bathing the interior in golden hues. Esperanza stirred from sleep, her heart light, filled with a joy that felt both foreign and delightful. She rose early, intent on preparing a hearty breakfast for Diego, whose strength and spirit had become her most cherished treasures. As she stirred the thick porridge over the fire, she could almost hear the land awaken around them, the wind whispering secrets, the rustle of leaves promising life, the distant trill of birds casting joyful notes into an eager sky. She felt alive, invigorated by the simple act of nurturing him, an expression of love that permeated their unlikely union. Diego entered, his form framed against the vibrant backdrop of dawn. His face softened, weariness lingering from the rigors of the past season, but eyes clearing at the sight of her warmth. "What are you cooking today that smells like heaven?" he questioned, leaning against the doorframe with a grin. "Nothing less than what you deserve," she shot back playfully, her tone buoyant as she set a bowl down in front of him. He laughed, a deep and hearty sound that cascaded through her heart, reawakening emotions she had buried for too long. With each passing day, Diego revealed pieces of himself. His laughter and smiles were no longer masked by burdens, and he cared less about the townsfolk's judgment. They spent long afternoons together, wandering the wilderness that now felt like home, exploring the winding trails carved through the mountains. Every evening they returned with their arms heavy with herbs, roots, or the shared bounty that the land could provide. "Do you think they judge us less now?" Esperanza asked one afternoon, her brow knitted in reflection. They were perched atop a sunlit boulder, gazing down at a valley bursting forth with color. "Perhaps," Diego replied, throwing her a contemplative look, "but it matters little. We've survived their scorn and carved out our own little sanctuary." He turned and traced her face with his eyes, his expression serious. "You are my sanctuary, Esperanza. I've come to understand that." Her heart danced at the confession, igniting a fire she had only felt in flickering glances before. "And you are mine," she returned softly, ripples of honesty reflecting between them. After weeks spent nurturing both their surroundings and their hearts, they began to gather strength not only from the land, but from the community that once scoffed at their union. Together, they forged an alliance with those whose paths had intersected with theirs. They found strength in the company of neighbors, often gathering around the fire with tales of adventure woven into the fabric of laughter and kinship. Yet, despite these bonds growing deeper, another storm loomed on the horizon. Beatriz had not given up. Whispers of her return ignited a quiet dread within Diego. "You need to be watchful," his friends advised, their brows furrowed in concern when they caught wind of her lingering presence in town. "She has means," one warned as they huddled around a smoldering fire, a smudge of uncertainty etching across Diego's brow. "She'll not let go easily." Diego's thoughts raced. Every chance encounter felt like a harbinger. Each fleeting mention of Beatriz's name stoked his worries, sparking a lingering tension whenever he returned home at night. Yet, he found solace in the warm glow of Esperanza's smile, the light in her expressive eyes, soothing the chaos swirling in his mind. As the sun dipped low on the horizon, a haunting beauty draped over the mountains, bringing a mellow twilight that seeped into the tiny cabin. They were seated by the fire one evening, as a late rainstorm pattered against the roof in gentle rhythms. Together they shared a steaming pot of stew, the intimacy of the moment warming the chill in the air. "The colors of the world seem brighter, don't they?" Esperanza remarked, peeking over her bowl, her heart swelling with a strange blend of hope and fear. "They are," Diego replied, his gaze fixated on her while the rain tumbled incessantly outside. The cabin was filled with the scent of wood smoke and spices, thickening the atmosphere. "Perhaps they are simply reflecting your light." Him saying such words felt like honey melting through her veins, sweetening what once felt bitter. Their courageous steps into the unknown, the uncertainty born of risk, had bound them in ways they had yet to fully understand. "Do you ever wonder if—" Before she could finish, a knock echoed through the cabin walls, startling them both from the moment they had been sharing. The sound cut through the cozy sanctuary that enveloped them, fraying the light that pulled them closer. "Who?" Diego asked, a knot of tension washing over him. Esperanza turned apprehensive, heart pounding wildly. "Do you think it's Beatriz?" "Stay here," he commanded, bolting from his seat the way the storm surged through the mountains. She thought of protesting, but instead held her silence, carefully measuring her next step. He opened the door to reveal a drifter, water coursing from his broad shoulders, wild hair plastered to his forehead. "I'm looking for shelter for the night," the man said, glancing between them with weariness etched into his features. "You are welcome to stay." Diego stepped aside, allowing their uninvited guest to cross the threshold. As soon as warm light met the drifter's skin, they settled beneath their roof. "Thank you kindly. I've had a long ride in the rain," the man stated gratefully, shaking droplets off his coat like a dousing of summer rain. The warmth of the fire beckoned him closer, and he settled heavily in one corner, offering an appreciative nod in their direction. Esperanza sensed the shift in Diego, his shoulders hardly relaxed, surroundings vibrating with a subtle tension that entangled her heart. Despite her own anxiety, she forged ahead, serving the drifter a meal from the pot that simmered over the flames. As they shared conversation with their unexpected visitor, threads of uncertainty tangled in the fabric of the night. The drifter spoke of the land, the network of settlers scattered across the backdrop of mountains, and whispered tales blew in with the wind. And with each word, Diego soaked in the recounting of injustices faced by others, those who had lost their dignity, their light, filled with a wisdom of hard truths, each tale igniting the urgency of change within the open folds of his heart. Yet as the rain formed a tempest outside, another knock echoed louder, asserting presence. This time it was undeniable. "I'll get it," he said, voice steely. The unease vibrated in the air as he moved toward the door. Esperanza watched him with a mixture of apprehension and trepidation. When Diego opened the door, standing there, wet and unyielding, was Beatriz, an apparition of the past refusing to fade away. "You'd think I would find you here, Diego," she said, her tone smooth yet chilling. "Go," Diego urged angrily. "You have no business here." "I don't think that's your choice to make," she answered, stepping forward as if to force her way into their world. "You fled me once. I won't let you run again." Esperanza felt the heat of Diego's rage surrounding them, pressing against her like a smothering mist. "This is not your place," she asserted, stepping toward the door to stand alongside Diego, defiant and unafraid. Beatriz's eyes glimmered with mockery, their exchanges brushing against the flint of conflict like a pernicious flame. "What is she to you?" she laughed, a shrillness that grated within the confines of the cabin. "More than you ever knew," he said flatly, voice carrying a fierce resolve. "She's my partner." "I see you've managed to convince her she can grow a garden in the winter." "It doesn't suit her." Beatriz shot back, barbs intended to wound. Diego shifted, anger thrumming through him. "Leave us. I am no longer yours." "Is it truly so easy to displace the past? To forget, Diego?" she posed, her gaze flickering between them. "You think this little farce of a life will carry the weight of your past?" Esperanza could feel the tension twisting, yet she straightened taller. "Diego does not need you," she declared, voice filled with conviction that surged within the chaos. "Not now that he knows the worth of the life he has built for himself." That caught Beatriz off guard, confusion sweeping across her features momentarily. "You're brave, I'll give you that," she mused, dismissing Esperanza's words, sliding off the wicked gleam in her eye. "But courage alone can't protect you from the truth. Regardless of your words, I stand by him. He chose me," Esperanza responded, determination rising from the depths of her heart. With steady resolve, she turned to Diego. "I am not afraid of who I am. I am worthy of love, even in a world that cast its shadows upon me for so long." Beatriz's expression flickered, a hint of doubt breaking through her bravado, worn and ragged, exposing the insecurity lying beneath. But as the weight of her words slid from the air, a triumphant silence fell. "Does your past haunt you still, Diego?" Beatriz pressed as she stepped back, a flicker of desperation darting across her features. "You stand there knowing she isn't your true match. You tried to fill a void with an empty placer." A flare of anger mirrored across Diego's steely countenance. "It is my choice to make," he asserted firmly, with the presence of a man unwilling to yield against the judgment of the past. "I choose her." Beatriz's defiance crumbled, frustration etched deep upon her brow. "You'll see," she warned, turning in disdain as she swept back through the door, leaving behind a discombobulated air taut with unspoken tension. "Will this ever end?" Diego murmured, anguish threading through his voice. "The past will come back to haunt us," Esperanza replied, emboldened, "but we face it together. You're not alone anymore." Her words hung in the air like the scent of fresh blossoms returning after the storm. In that moment, amidst uncertainty and trials conquered, they drew strength from each other, intertwined hearts pulsing with an undeniable rhythm. Neither would stand to bear the threat of their past loves dragging them back into the dark chasms they had only recently escaped. With the shelter of the other, they could rise above. With each storm that passed, they would only grow stronger, and together they would forge their shared destiny. As dawn cracked the horizon anew, the vastness of the mountains reflected in their eyes remained unyielded, an emblem of resilience, resilient in the face of every challenge, continued trials awaiting beyond. Yet, the threads of their union held firm, woven tightly against the cold winds that threatened to disperse them anew. United at last, they stood poised before the world, prepared to carve their legacy into the annals of history, fiercely entwined. Hand in hand they welcomed the new day, prepared to shape their own narratives anew. As the warmth of spring enveloped the Colorado territory, vibrant blossoms dotted the hillsides, and the sounds of life vibrated in the air. The mountains, majestic and timeless, bore witness to the transformation occurring in both the landscape and the hearts entwined within it. Esperanza and Diego stood on the cusp of forging a life together, buoyed by the love that had flourished amidst the ashes of their pasts. Esperanza busied herself in the garden they had begun to establish outside their cabin. The soil was rich and forgiving, a blank slate for their hopes and aspirations. Each seed dropped into the ground was a symbol of their determination, a testament to the future they were crafting hand in hand. Today, the sun kissed the earth tenderly, illuminating the vibrant green tendrils that had begun to sprout. "Look, I think this one's ready to bloom," Diego exclaimed, kneeling beside one of the wildflowers they'd planted. His enthusiasm bubbled over as he admired the petals unfurling toward the sun. Esperanza knelt beside him, her heart swelling with pride. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "these flowers remind me of us. They've pushed through the winter, just like we have." "Yes, but just wait until we have a garden full of them," he replied, his eyes sparkling with hope. "We'll not only grow food, but beauty too." Amidst their laughter and gentle teasing, a sense of harmony enveloped their shared moment, making the shadows of their past feel as distant as the clouds floating above. The shared labor brought them closer together, forging unbreakable bonds through the rich earth. However, the shadows that occasionally flickered at the edge of their idyllic life had not vanished. As spring progressed, whispers reached them about Beatriz lingering in town, her presence a reminder of the fractures they'd endured. Upon overhearing gossip about her, unease settled deep in Esperanza's heart. "Do you think she'll come back?" Esperanza asked one evening as they prepared a simple meal in their kitchen, the warm scent of baked bread mingling with herbs fresh from the garden. Diego paused, the weight of her question hanging heavy. "I can't say for certain, but it won't change what we've built." The determination etched into his features gave Esperanza comfort. "What we have is far stronger than her malice." "But will it be enough?" she whispered, her voice trembling. "It will, as long as we stand together," he reassured her, placing a firm hand on her shoulder. "We are a team now." Their unity sang through the air, yet the truth loomed like a cloud, whispering doubts even when they stood back to back. The peace they had forged felt like a fragile bubble, and Esperanza couldn't shake the feeling that it was not just about them. There were cracks in the foundation. Days turned into weeks, and the dynamic within the community shifted as they continued to work the land. Laughter echoed through neighboring homesteads as families gathered for meals under the shade of trees, and gossip transformed from whispers of their past to admiration of the life they had built. Yet even amid the building camaraderie, anxiety simmered beneath as people occasionally exchanged uneasy glances when Beatriz's name was mentioned. As the sun dipped low, casting an orange glow across the valley one evening, the sound of hoofbeats broke the tranquility of their cabin. The rhythmic trot drew closer, and soon a rider appeared, a figure cloaked in confusion and shadow. "Diego! Esperanza!" a neighbor shouted as they galloped into view. "What's wrong?" Diego called out, concern gripped tightly around his heart as he clasped Esperanza's hand tightly. "Beatriz." The riders struggled to catch their breath, urgency thrumming in their words. "She's in town, and she's stirring trouble. There are rumors she's gathering support." The blood drained from Esperanza's face, the shadows that had threatened to break through finally encroaching. "What do you mean?" she urged, fear creeping into her voice. "They say she's claiming ownership over Diego, challenging your union," he replied, tension taut in the air. "People are starting to listen. She's playing on their fears." Diego's jaw clenched as anger simmered beneath the surface. "We've moved beyond her grasp. I'm not her possession." "Ownership only exists if we let someone else define us," Esperanza added, a flicker of determination igniting in her chest. "We must confront this before the rumors spread. Together, we can face whatever she throws at us," Diego agreed, his gaze sharpening with resolve. "We've endured too much to let her dictate our future." As the evening grew darker, sharing their fears transformed into strategy. They would stand united as they always had, but now they were preparing for battle, not against one another, but against the shadows that wished to pull them apart. The next day, they decided to ride into town, hoping to quell the rumors before they gained any further traction. Together they mounted their horses, a sense of unwavering resolve knitting their hearts closer. Upon arrival at the town square, however, the atmosphere felt charged, alive with anticipation as groups murmured among themselves, casting curious glances their way. Families gathered in clusters, and the undertone of conversation hinted at the wildfires Beatriz had ignited. "We can't move through them like we're invisible," Esperanza mused, her eyes surveying the crowd, hopelessness threatening to seep in. "Let's meet this head-on," Diego declared, taking her hand with urgency. "Together, we will show them we are stronger than her claims." As they approached the heart of the town, they spotted Beatriz standing at the center of a gathering, her hair blowing wildly in the wind as she gestured animatedly, her voice gripping the attention of those gathered. "Look at how easily they allow themselves to be deceived," Beatriz shouted, her words laced with venom. "You believe they belong together, but they only represent the very chaos that is tearing our community apart. Ask yourselves, what value is there in duplicity?" Heavy silence fell over the crowd, curious eyes focused on Beatriz's show, pulling Esperanza's heart into knots. Cries of solidarity erupted from her allies, emboldening Beatriz's claims. "She'll never fit in. She represents the very threat to our safety." Diego tightened his grip on Esperanza's hand, rage threatening to spill over as the crowd buzzed with uncertainty. "Enough!" Diego's voice boomed, cutting through the noise. "Do you not see what is happening here? The winds that blow trouble only seek to divide us for personal gain. My heart belongs to Esperanza." Stepping forward, Diego's presence loomed large, silencing the whispers. "We've faced battles before and we've survived. We built this life together amid storms of doubt." Esperanza joined him at the forefront, the warmth of his steadiness fueling her courage. "We are not broken. Our union is forged in resilience, in love. No one can declare ownership over that." Their voices melded, resonating with both authority and vulnerability. The crowd, once frayed, felt the tension of the moment shift. Beatriz's eyes flared with hostility. "Your faces carry the weight of deceit," she spat back, anger boiling within her. "You collective fools pride yourselves on a mirage." Yet as murmurs drifted through the crowd, Esperanza caught expressions morphing. Faces shifted from apprehensive glances to nods, some reflecting understanding. "It is not mirage but courage that leads us now," another voice echoed from the crowd. An older widow, she who had seen her own share of heartache and triumph. "I see what they have built. Fear will not govern us." With this simple acknowledgement, a shift in momentum blossomed, tension unfurling like petals soaking in light. "Beatriz, this community has wrested itself from the grip of fear," Diego replied calmly, his gaze studying her. "You can no longer control the narrative." Fingers intertwined, Esperanza drew strength from their connection, feeling the heartbeat of the crowd drum in approval. "We are bound by love, not ownership. Love is what unites us, and that cannot be undone, only embraced." The crowd erupted in applause, their support solidified as Beatriz's facade crumbled beneath the weight of sincerity thrumming within each word. With frustration etched on her features, Beatriz stepped back, the rage subsiding into begrudging acceptance. "You may find this moment victorious, but seasons change. Just wait. This is not over." The words hung in the air as she retreated like smoke, curling away in the wind. A palpable shift settled in the town square. A sense of solidarity blossomed, and the people rallied around Diego and Esperanza, each one offering words of comfort and assurance. "We stand with you," voices chimed from the crowd, flooding the air with support. Esperanza's heart warmed at the show of unity. "Thank you," she whispered to the townsfolk, their faces shining with hope. "Together we will keep our roots planted deep." As the sun dipped low, painting the sky with hues of pink and gold, Diego turned toward Esperanza, admiration sparking in his eyes. "You were incredible today," he murmured, pulling her close. "Your strength fueled the fire of our future." "It was our strength," she replied softly, not ready to let go of his embrace. "We have always faced this world together." As they rode back to their cabin that evening, the wind sung a new melody, one woven with unity, resilience, and love that, like the strongest seeds in their garden, would take root deep within the earth. They entered their home, the warmth wrapping around them, a sanctuary against the storms outside. Together they would face whatever came next, anchored by the foundations of love they had built and nurtured. The path ahead remained uncertain, yet the two of them stood as fierce pillars, ready to forge a future colored in every hue of hope, defiance, and joy, with their entwined hearts, forever blooming in the sunlit expanse of possibility. As the days turned into weeks, the echoes of their confrontation with Beatriz gradually transformed into whispers of admiration throughout the community. Diego and Esperanza's bond was fortified, a tangible force that resonated with every passing encounter. Their neighbors began to recognize not only their unity, but the strength they provided to one another, an affirmation that rang true for everyone around them. One warm afternoon, while working in the garden, Esperanza paused to wipe the sweat from her brow. She stood back, taking in the rows of vegetables and flowers that thrived beneath the sun. Life and beauty sprung forth, as if in recognition of their strength, a testament to the resilience they had cultivated together. "Look at this," she called out to Diego, gesturing excitedly to the healthy shoots sprouting from the ground. "These heirloom tomatoes are going to be the envy of the entire territory." Diego grinned, his hands calloused yet gentle, completing the delicate weaving of a new trellis. "You've nurtured them with so much care," he said, stepping to her side. "It's no wonder they've flourished." The sun cast a golden light upon them, and for a moment time felt suspended, each heartbeat harmonizing with the beauty around them. But as Esperanza reveled in the moment, shadows of doubt crept in. "Diego, do you think Beatriz will truly leave us alone?" Her voice trembled slightly under the weight of her uncertainty. He turned to her, sincerity etched across his features. "I don't know what she may attempt next, but I do know she underestimates our resolve. As long as we stand united, she will find it a difficult battle." "Together," she echoed, drawing comfort from his words despite the nagging anxiety that lingered in the back of her mind. Every day felt like a dance on the edge of a blade, a balance between the new life they had forged and the remnants of a past that threatened to resurface. Later that evening, Diego sat on the porch, the cool mountain breeze wrapping around them as the sun melted into the horizon. He absent-mindedly carved a piece of wood, his hands moving rhythmically. "Do you think we should prepare for her return?" Esperanza asked, her gaze fixed on the way the fading light illuminated the contours of his face. "What if she stirs up more trouble?" Diego set down his carving, his expression shifting to one of contemplation. "We can prepare, but we should not live in fear. We've faced her in the open. The community stands with us. We'll consult our neighbors, and if anything arises, we will confront it together." Her heart surged, filled with warmth at the thought of solidarity among them. "I would like that," she replied, voice steadied by newfound hope. "If we maintain open communication, we might just outlast her." Yet as optimism flowed through their conversation, an unwelcome reminder thrummed in the air, a rustle of leaves, a distant whisper of uncertainty. The world outside their cabin remained unpredictable, and while they held ground, the path forward remained unclear. Days passed, each revealing the beauty of their growing partnership, work in the fields, communal gatherings, and shared laughter. But then, one fateful day, just as Diego entered town to gather supplies, a familiar face sent icy shivers down his spine. Beatriz leaned against the post outside the general store, her demeanor dangerously nonchalant. Diego's heart raced as he braced himself, aware that a confrontation was inevitable. "Diego," she called, her voice a blend of mockery and allure. "I was wondering when I'd see you again. Seems like not much has changed. Still trudging along with your little garden and your little dream." He took a deep breath, forcing the tension from his shoulders, reminding himself of the strength he had in Esperanza and the community behind him. "What do you want, Beatriz?" he asked, aiming for a calm he didn't truly feel. "Can't we catch up? I've missed our long chats," she taunted, stepping closer, eyes narrowed like a predator stalking its prey. "And I've been telling everyone how unworthy you are of such a precious gift. It's astonishing what you'll settle for when the heart is weak." Diego held his ground, anger simmering beneath the surface. "You don't know anything about us. Esperanza is everything you're not. A beacon of courage and love," he replied, voice steady. "I wouldn't be so complacent," she warned, a cryptic smile curling her lips. "Things can change in an instant. You'd do well to remember that." As the tension swirled, townsfolk emerged from the store, curiosity piqued, and gasped at the brewing conflict. Diego clenched his fists, the weight of their presence weighing on him. The stakes had escalated. "Does she speak the truth?" one man called from the crowd, establishing a connection between the past and the present. "No!" Diego shouted, desperation filtering through. "This is nothing more than a twisted game. Esperanza and I have always risen above." Beatriz feigned a pout, eyes darting between the neighbors and the familiar corner of the store. "How lovely it is to see you all so naive. Only time could teach you the value of loyalty." But murmurs surged through the crowd. Support began to take root. "She's wrong," a neighbor chimed in. "We know you, Diego. We've seen what you've built with Esperanza. You stand strong through all adversity." "Hear that?" Beatriz interjected, her patience wearing thin as the crowd swelled behind Diego. "They only know your facade. Wait until they learn what truly lies beneath. Diego stepped forward, rejection firm. Enough of this. If your shadow has to linger, then watch as we turn your darkness into light. We will not let you define us. As more voices joined in defiance, the collective sentiment swung like a storming tide against Beatrice. The weight of her presence crackled in the air as she realized the walls were closing around her. Stricken, Beatrice's mask slipped, revealing vulnerability buried beneath her bravado. "You, a foolish child with delusions of unity," she spat, taking a step back, realizing she was outnumbered. With one last glare, she retreated from the crowd, murmuring words that dripped with venom. "This isn't over, Diego." The moment she vanished from sight, relief filled the square. People turned to Diego, offering words of solidarity. "We believe in you," one elder exclaimed, the fervor of community lifting the spirits of those who remained. Echoes of support flowed through the townsfolk, solidifying Diego and Esperanza's resolve. "Together," Diego shouted, and the crowd raised their voices in unison. "We stand together." That evening, under the twilight sky, Diego and Esperanza returned home, hearts still pounding with adrenaline, but resolved with the warmth of unwavering unity. As they settled on their porch, the setting sun cast a soft glow over them, washing away the tension from the day. "You were incredible," Esperanza said breathlessly, turning toward Diego. "Your strength, together we can face anything." His eyes gleamed with the fire of determination. "We are stronger together, and that gives me hope. We've walked through shadows, discovering the essence of our love, and we cannot let that waver." They clasped hands, a silent pact solidified between them in a world that seemed determined to test their resolve. With an understanding that together they could weather even the most potent storms, they leaned into each other, hearts intertwined, ready for the challenges that awaited them. As night fell over the mountains and stars speckled the sky, they stood steadfast, rooted in their promise to confront whatever emerged from the shadows, with love as their strongest shield, and together they would write their story anew. As dawn broke over the Colorado mountains, the sun cast a warm glow across the landscape. Though the day began beautifully, a stirring tension lingered in the air, a reminder of the confrontation with Beatrice that unsettled Esperanza's heart. Standing by the window, Esperanza gazed into the distance, the soft light doing little to quell the knot of anxiety tightening in her stomach. She turned to Diego, who was busy at the hearth, preparing their morning meal. "Do you think Beatrice will come back?" she asked, her voice laced with concern. Diego paused to meet her gaze, his expression grave. "I can't say for sure, but we've faced her before and come out stronger. We have to be prepared for whatever she might throw at us." As much as his words reassured her, uncertainty gnawed at Esperanza. "We can't allow her to poison our happiness. Let's invite the community over for dinner. We should celebrate what we've built." "I like that idea," Diego said, a smile breaking through the heaviness. "Opening our home can remind everyone of the strength we share." Eager to create a sense of joy, they spent the day preparing their meal. The aroma of fresh bread and roasted vegetables filled the cabin, and anticipation bubbled between them as they set the table for their guests. As the sun dipped low in the sky, neighbors began to arrive, laughter and chatter spilling into the open air. The warmth of community surrounded them, reinforcing the bond that had grown among the townsfolk since the conflict had begun. "Thank you for coming," Diego said, his voice resonating through the gathering as everyone settled down. "Together, you've all played a vital role in our journey, and we are grateful for your unwavering support." Cheers erupted from the crowd, and Esperanza stepped forward, holding a large, colorful salad. "Tonight, we stand together at the beginning of a new chapter. Let us cherish this moment and strengthen the bonds that unite us." Glasses clinked together in celebration, filling the air with joy and connection. But as the night deepened, a subtle tension began to shift the mood, the shadows of uncertainty flickering just beyond their warmth. Suddenly, the gathering was interrupted by the creaking of the door. A hush fell over the room, and all eyes turned to see Beatrice standing in the threshold, framed by the dim light outside, her smile a cruel twist of mockery. "Is this a private party, or can anyone join?" she asked, her voice slicing through the camaraderie like a knife. "Beatrice," Diego said, stepping protectively in front of Esperanza, instinctually shielding her from the threat. "This isn't the time or place for you to disrupt our gathering." "Why, Diego, don't be so harsh," she replied, her tone dripping with sarcasm. "I thought we were past those petty barriers. What makes you think your happiness can withstand the truth?" "Truth?" Diego responded, his anger flaring. "We're not defined by your bitterness. Esperanza is my partner, and we stand together against you." "Together? Is that what you think?" Beatrice sneered, her confidence unyielding. "But what happens when the walls from your little dream start to shake? I'm here to remind you it can all come crumbling down." Tension crackled in the air, and murmurs of concern rippled through the crowd. Esperanza moved to take a step forward, her heart pounding but fierce with resolve. "Leave us, Beatrice. Your threats hold no power here." The assembled neighbors shifted uneasily, but began to respond, echoing solidarity. "Get out!" one voice called out, and it propelled others to join in, rallying behind Diego and Esperanza. With fury flashing in her eyes, Beatrice took a step back. "This isn't over," she hissed, retreating from the crowd. "You'll regret this decision." As she turned and walked away, the weight of tension lifted, and a wave of relief washed over the gathering. Diego faced his friends, grateful for their support. "We won't be shaken by her threats. We are stronger together," he proclaimed, the crowd erupting in cheers, voices rising in unison. After the storm of emotions passed, the warmth of the gathering quickly returned. The neighbors clapped Diego on the back and offered words of encouragement, yet the specter of Beatrice's threat still loomed in the background, lingering like an unwelcome shadow. Later that evening, as they settled together on their porch, the weight of the earlier confrontation still buzzed in their minds. But amid the echo of uncertainty, the embers of hope glowed brightly between them. "Tonight proved something important," Diego said, glancing at Esperanza, who returned his gaze with soft determination. "We faced her together, and we'll keep facing whatever comes next. Together, we can conquer anything that threatens our happiness." In that moment, Esperanza nodded gravely, the strength of their love lighting her heart aflame. "Even in darkness, we hold the light. Our love is our armor." Their fingers intertwined as they embraced, fortified by unbreakable bonds, knowing challenges remained ahead. With each shared breath amid the mountain air, they readied themselves for the storm, committed to nurturing their dreams and persevering against adversity. As they stared into the endless sky, brimming with stars, they stood steadfast against the gathering shadows, prepared to meet whatever challenges lay ahead. In unity, they would rise, guiding their story forward, buoyed by hope and love, ready to face a tomorrow that was theirs to create.